Good morning. Welcome to SSUC on this wonderful Sunday of June 18th, 2023. Welcome to those of you who join us for the first time in a while, online by way of our live stream, or you who join our circle regularly, welcome. As we know, we strive to be a community of welcome and affirmation, radical inclusivity, a place where all ages and sizes, colors and cultures, where all sexualities and genders, religions and traditions, many or none, are welcome. So welcome to this circle this morning, and welcome to those of you online this morning. We meet today on Father's Day. Today is a day when we recognize the gift of our birth made possible by a father. We honor the fathers in our lives in many ways, for birth fathers, adopted fathers, for those who are with no ties of blood, been like fathers to us, for those who express that spirit of care to others regardless of parentage, for those who express that spirit with children, with animals, with nature. We honor today that fathering spirit, life giver, caretaker, protector, the sacred masculine in this life. So we honor the gift of that spirit that makes a difference, and in an expansive and in an embracing way, we share gratitude on this day. So happy Father's Day. And we come together particularly today, June 18th, a few days before National Indigenous Peoples Day. And we honor our relationships with the Indigenous community and our partnership, Indigenous and non-Indigenous alike. And we do so first this morning with a welcome to our guest speaker, Carola. Thank you for being here. And we'll get a more full introduction of Carola in a little bit, but we're so pleased that you're here and can bring to us a message, an update of what you're doing, and all the good that you will bring to us. Thank you. We start every gathering in this way to honor our place in this land, but also our relationship and continuing efforts of reconciliation that are part of who we are as a community of settlers, Indigenous and non-Indigenous. We had hoped that Elsie Paul would be with us today to participate in our gathering, but alas, she still remains in hospital, and so our hearts are with Elsie for her recovery and with her return to health. But she is with us in spirit and this morning in her teachings, and so we'll offer the floor to Elsie Paul by way of her TikTok channel, bringing us a land acknowledgement this morning.
So we acknowledge that we're on Treaty 6 land, a traditional meeting grounds, a gathering place and traveling route to the Cree, Saltex, Blackfoot, Métis, Dene and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge that many First Nations, Métis and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries.
And so we continue in that spirit of acknowledging our people, the people and partners that we share this land with, that we share life with. We continue that spirit by lighting candles this morning, and it gives me an opportunity to not only welcome those who are going to participate in our candle lighting this morning with us, but also to recognize the work of the whole Moving Forward to Reconciliation group, who's helped put this gathering together and who will participate at many places within our time this morning. So I welcome Kim Fischbach, Ruth Stewart-Verger, Heather McDonald, and Simone Demers as the first few that will come and help us light our candles this morning.
We honor the East, where the sun brings the freshness of a new day and a spirit of spring growth and newness. We receive the gifts of the East with gratitude.
We honor the South, where the waters flow, where life bursts forth and flourishes under the strength of the sun.
We receive the gifts of the South with gratitude.
We honor the West, where the sun sets on the Earth's horizon, calling us to the quiet curve of evening, the place and time of rest.
We receive the gifts of the West with gratitude.
We come from the north, where the strong wind binds us in community, where we gather in the strength of wisdom and the experience of our elders.
We receive the gifts of the north with gratitude.
Together, we honor the wisdom and tradition of the four directions. We come to meet in the center. May our hearts be open.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Gail Simonson. When we first adopted the name of Henry Steinhauer back around 1980, the minister at the time asked me to do a bit of research on him, and I got hooked. He was an amazing, amazing man, and it's hard to sum him up in a few minutes. Steiner was Ojibwe from Eastern Canada. He had entered the Methodist school system when he was about 10 years old, and in 1829 was one of 7 young people taken on a fundraising tour through the United States. They were actually advertised as specimen trophies of the victories of Methodism. It was on that trip that there was a portrait painted of him. The boy was set up in native regalia, and there is a portrait which is now at the Glenbow Museum. Also, a philanthropist found a great deal of promise in this young man and promised to fund his education if he was renamed Henry Steinhauer after the man's dead son. And so Henry kept his name Bird. He was from the Bird clan. But he had the opportunity to attend the Cazenovia Seminary in New York and also Victoria College, which at that point was very new in Toronto. He wasn't ordained right away. He taught first in the East, then in 1840 traveled west with other missionaries and worked in several posts in northern Manitoba. In fact, in one winter, trying to establish a mission at Oxford House, they were near starvation. While teaching at Norway House, he translated much of the Bible into Cree using the syllabic system that had been developed by James Evans so that it was easy for Native people to read. There he married Swampy Cree woman Jessie Mamanuwartam. In 1854, he sailed to England on a fundraising tour there, along with Arctic explorer John Ray on a Hudson Bay boat. On his return, he was ordained and again headed west. With Jessie and their 4 children, they headed to Lac La Biche to establish a Methodist mission. But he found it difficult to work so close to a Roman Catholic mission, and so they moved to Whitefish Lake to establish their mission there. Also working with them were Ben and Margaret Sinclair, who had worked originally with Robert Rundle. Like Jessie, they were Swampy Cree. They set to work planting gardens, breaking some land to grow barley. If you can imagine the missionary and some of the others hooked up to a plow because they had no oxen, and the Indian ponies were not going to be tethered to a plow. Soon they established a second mission at Goodfish Lake, and those are now part of the Saddle Lake Reserve. Henry was involved in all of the work, including when they went out on a buffalo hunt, which they did regularly to keep their food supply. In 1869, the Hudson Bay Company was preparing to transfer the land from their management to the Canadian government. The missionaries felt they needed to prepare the people for this transition. Steiner no doubt remembered how his mother's people had been moved by government authorities in Ontario to less fertile land when the white settlers wanted their land. In 1871, he organized a petition to the lieutenant governor requesting recognition of native title to the land. Peter Erasmus, who was of Danish and Métis heritage, was also highly educated and was working with Steinhauer by then. They helped Chief Pecan set out treaty expectations. In 1875, Steiner had a lot of writings out there, and they're fascinating to read. He was an amazing man. In 1875, he wrote, "There was always a distrust on the part of a native to the foreigner from the fact that the native has been so long downtrodden by the white man. Sure enough, at the Treaty 6 negotiations the following year, Chief Buchan felt he was promised the things he had asked, but it wasn't so. The following year, in 1877, an Edmonton Bulletin report, and this was Frank Oliver's paper, on government mismanagement by some of the agents, concluded that golden promises will not keep hunger and cold from a red skin any more than a white one. And that's a quote from 1877. The year 1875 had brought a gift to the settlement in the form of teacher Elizabeth Ann Barrett, a young teacher from Ontario. She set to work quickly learning Cree and the syllabics. She worked with Steinhauer to approach the government, and they became the first Protestant Indian school in the Saskatchewan district to receive government funding, and the Saskatchewan district extended from Red River to the Rocky Mountains. During the uprising, in addition to teaching the children, she prepared the Steiner sons, Edgerton and Robert, for college. They both attended Victoria College and excelled in their studies like their father had, and both were later ordained. Robert later wrote that his dad actually prepared his creeds in sermon from the original Latin and Greek, and that on many occasions he was trying to compare Bible stories to a lot of the native legends, saying that they were very similar. The year 1884 brought more problems as government surveyors came through the land and were not always getting along with the native people. But that was the year that, at year end, both Henry Bird Steinhauer and Ben Sinclair died. It was the following year that is known as the Riel Rebellion, 1885. At that, Chief Buchan kept his people out of it, saying, "I owe a great debt to our missionary who recently left us, Mr. Steinhauer." The sculpture in front of the church, which I'm sure you've all noticed, was carved by his great-great-grandson, Stuart Steinhauer, and presented by Stuart's mother, Margaret, who, with her husband, Herb, a great-great-grandson, and a brother to Lieutenant Governor Ralph Steinhauer, was a member of this congregation. Stuart has written, "This is a fitting image to honor the sculptor's noble ancestor, Henry Bird Steinhauer, who was born a member of the Bird clan in southern Ontario. Indigenous knowledge is deeply linked to the immediate environment and travels from the great mystery to the humble learner, along what in modern times is called a spiritual pathway. Following the spiritual pathway step by step in the present moment, we are able to maintain a harmony and balance. They were able to maintain a harmony and balance that we in the modern world can only wonder at. Despite the many hardships and the discrimination he faced, Henry Steiner introduced agricultural practices to the Cree of Alberta, translated much of the Bible into Cree syllabics, established the first Indian settlement, and the first school west of Red River. He was a teacher, builder, farmer, and hunter, as well as a spiritual leader. Most of all, he was a man who taught peace.
Time for all ages. Come on, partners. Anyone's welcome to the carpet, of course. And we are going to share in a story today that comes from this book called The Sharing Circle, Stories About First Nations Culture, and it's written by Teresa Muse-Dalian and illustrated by Arthur Stevens. And there's quite a few stories in here, and they're all really short, but I want to read you today a story about the eagle feather. One summer, in an afternoon, Matthew and his dad went walking through the woods near their home, and as they walked, Matthew's dad talked about the many plants and animals found in the woods and how they're used by First Nations people. He explained that some plants and trees are used for making crafts and medicines, and that animals can be used for food and clothing. All these things are a special part of Indigenous culture. Suddenly, Matthew spotted an eagle. He stood very still to watch the great bird soar in circles high above his head. The eagle had a fish in his claws, just caught from the river. Matthew was sure he was taking the fish back to the nest to feed his family. "That eagle sure is beautiful," whispered Matthew. "Yes, it is," replied his father. "To see an eagle flying overhead is a sign of good luck and happiness." "Dad, tell me about the eagle again. Why is it so important?" Matthew asked. It seemed like every time he heard it, he learned something new. Matthew's dad first heard the story of the eagle from his own father. "We believe that the eagle is the most powerful bird in the sky and can fly higher than any other bird," he began. "The eagle can also see for many miles, which helps it search for food. Of all the creatures on the earth, the eagle can get the closest to heaven and can help carry our prayers and messages to the Creator. That's why eagle feathers are important to Indigenous people. Not everyone has an eagle feather. Normally, an eagle feather is given to someone for a special reason. It's one of the best gifts that anyone can receive." Eagle feathers are used in many ways. For example, drummers and dancers use them during special ceremonies. But I use mine when I say prayers. I take the feather from its special place, hold it in my hands. When I finish, I put the feather back so that it doesn't get lost or ruined. The sun was starting to go down, so Matthew and his dad turned toward home. Matthew ran ahead, hoping to see the eagle just one more time. As Matthew searched the sky, his dad noticed something. He looked down, saw an eagle feather lying on the ground. Before Matthew could see, he bent down, picked up the feather, carefully slipped it under his jacket. When they got home, Matthew's mom came out to meet them. Matthew told her all about the walk in the woods and the eagle that they saw. Later, Matthew's dad showed what he had found to Matthew's mom. She took the eagle feather and placed it on a piece of red and yellow silk, and she added some leather to the pointed end of the feather and attached 2 white beads to the leather pieces. Then together, Matthew's mom and dad held the feather and said a thank you prayer. They were thankful for the feather. They were thankful for the eagle. When they were ready, they called for Matthew. His mother held out the feather and presented it to her son. His eyes grew big, and the smile on his face showed his joy, and they told him how special he was and that they loved him very much. Matthew took the feather carefully, promising to take good care of it, and he hugged them both and ran off to his room. Matthew was happy to finally have his very own eagle feather. It made him feel special, and it reminded him of the woods. It reminded him of his father and his mother and his culture. Like his dad, Matthew found a special place for his feather, a wooden box where he kept all his special gifts. That's just a really simple story about the eagle feather, but it helps us all understand a little bit about why we see eagle feathers as such an important part of things, and why it is that the eagle is such a special animal, as are so many animals to our Indigenous friends. So the more we can learn, the more we understand, the more we can be better friends. Thank you. Thank you for coming and hearing that story with me. Kid Spirit is ready to go. If you want to go, you're welcome to go with Daisy. just a few moments to share some invitations and some goings on in the life of the community. I want to first share many thanks to all of you who support the work of this congregation, for your donations of time and for your energy and work that you put into making us able to do all of the things that we do. If you'd like to donate today, there are 2 boxes at the back, or if you're online or in this room, you can donate anytime on our website or with an e-transfer. Thank you for that. 2 summer camp opportunities happening in our community this summer. One of them is our own, sponsored by Kid Spirit, Camp Explore, a SSUC summer camp for any kids age 6 to 12, and registration is available online at our website. There's more information. Or Camp Dragonfly, particular camp for gender creative children and trans children and their friends and siblings or family members. We've been sponsoring and directing Camp Dragonfly here in this space for now 4 or 5 years, and it just keeps growing and getting meeting that need in this city, and doing an amazing job at doing that. So please spread the word if that camp is something that someone in your family or circle needs. Please share the word. And then just a quick note about something coming up this week. We will have the opportunity to walk the labyrinth in this space on June 21st at 7 p.m. to honor the solstice. So please consider that. Linda, you have something to offer for our ongoing campaign.
Thank you. Our underwear is increasing. We're all now almost at 500 pairs. So this week was a great buying spree. This week has also been busy at Bissell. In June, they've been celebrating Pride. Now they've been celebrating Indigenous history. And they are doing some murals in their outside area, which has really brightened up that whole area. I've heard from Donna that there's a sale coming on for underwear starting June 26th at Costco. So if you have a chance to shop there, apparently it's a great buy. And if you don't want to shop and you'd like me or Donna to shop for you, we'd be happy to do that. Last year, we donated 772 pairs, and we're down to the last 2 weeks, so I'm hoping we'll have a great last surge and reach that. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Ruth Stevenson, and I'm a co-chair of the Moving Forward Towards Reconciliation Committee. And we'd like to invite you to stay for lunch next week. We're going to prepare some stew and have some bannock prepared and some berries. And we will have 3 short films on Indigenous issues to watch. So you're all welcome. If you'd like to sign up, there's a sign-up sheet in the back, or in the front, I guess, whatever. And that will help us to decide how much stew to make. So please come. Did I say next week? Next Sunday, the 20th. Oh, and our committee has gathered some books that you're very welcome to borrow today. They're on a table in the foyer, and we ask you to stop by after the service and have a look at the books that are available. And there are sign-out sheets for you to use if you wish to borrow any of the books.
Good morning. I've got the wisdom reading. This is from Luke chapter 15, verses 1 through 9, and it is the First Nations version. And there are, I don't know how to put the words, but there's Indigenous names for Jesus and other people, and I'm going to use those names, and then in the brackets there's what we have grown up listening to in the non-Indigenous world. Tribal tax collectors and other outcasts would often gather around Creator Sets Free, Jesus, to listen to him tell his stories. But the separated ones, Pharisees, and the scroll keepers would complain about this. They would say things like, "This man welcomes outcasts to join him at the table and eat with him." On one of these occasions, Creator Sets Free, Jesus, answered them with a story. "Who among you, if you were caring for 100 sheep and one of the lambs wandered away, would not leave the 99 and search for that lost lamb until you found it? Would you not put that lamb on your shoulders, hurry home, and invite your friends to a celebration, saying to them, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found my lost lamb'? Let me say it another way," he explained. "What person who has 10 eagle feathers and loses one would not light a torch, sweep the house clean, and look everywhere until it was found? Then after, would that person not gather friends together for a celebration? In the same way, Creator's Spirit messengers will celebrate when even one outcast finds the way back home." These are the words from the Jesus tradition, translated by and for First Nations across North America, Turtle Island. May we find wisdom for our living.
As we were thinking about planning this service today and also planning where our committee is going to go, we thought it would be a good idea first to look back to see what Steinhauer Southminster's relationship has been with Indigenous peoples before we decide how to go forward, what to do next. From some reading I've done about the history of the church, one of the activities of the church early on was to establish the Southern Housing Group. And my understanding was that initially it was to support young women who were coming into the city for the first time, to give them a safe place to get established in the city. The church has always been involved with the Bissell Center, and people of the church provided support for witnesses during the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. We also supported a group formed here in Edmonton called RISE, Reconciliation in Solidarity, Edmonton, and the Heart to Heart campaign in February, where we've sent letters to the government to encourage them to spend the same amount of money on Indigenous children as they do on non-Indigenous children. Mark to the Moosehide campaign, and we've supported the Kukum group and their calendars that they put out every year. Also, the idea of looking back was also a wonderful excuse to invite Dr. Carola Cunningham to come back and speak with us. Our church has supported Ambrose Place, which is a home, it's a permanent supportive housing, PSH. Carola's tried to teach me that, and I haven't done a very good job of learning it. But Carola's been very involved in setting up that program and being the CEO for a long time. She says that she's retired now, but when I talked to her earlier this week, she didn't sound very retired. She's got lots of energy and lots of really wonderful experience and knowledge. She's also been a mentor and a friend to my husband and I, to our daughter, Anne, who is a counselor now with the Edmonton City Council. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Dr. Carola Cunningham to come and speak to us this morning. You are so welcome.
Tansai Kayas. Hello, it's been a long time. Mio Gisiga. Good morning. Ogishigos Queos Nitsika San Ochi Ota Mawapaweg Carola. My name is Sky Woman, that's my spirit name, and I can use it today because we're in celebration. My Christian name is Carola, and I said that I came from the land of Red Willow. So if anybody knows St. Albert, along Big Lake, 5 generations ago, my great-grandfather took scribe. So he gave up his status as a treaty Indigenous person and became a landowner. And we still have family that reside along Big Lake. Cunningham Transport, you'll probably see it driving around the city. That's my uncle. Yeah, so I'm so happy to be back here because I have been here before. And, you know, you were the only people that invited me at the beginning when I was really struggling to prove to government and private sector and Homer Trust that Indigenous people had a way of working with our people that would bring a great benefit to them and to the infrastructure that we live with. And of course, I don't know that they truly believed that in the beginning because I was underfunded when I started, and so I had to really dig my heels in, like Pascual Mustus, that buffalo, and go around, and I built a social enterprise where I could ask for people to donate to us. I could create ways of bringing money in so that we could support the people that we were housing. So starting, you know, maybe almost 10 years ago at having $900,000 to operate a 42 apartment building, we're now a huge organization. Our budget is well over $5 million. We have many, many apartments, and we will continue to grow and service our people. So I'm just going to start this. Oh yeah, he told me it was really easy. Yeah, so Ambrose Approach, Ambrose is our mother, our flagship really, and Arsan is here. Arsan is the director of Ambrose and the Housing Support Worker Program, so he'll be around and he can answer any questions, but he is now responsible for the goings-on in Ambrose. But when it was first developed, we all worked out of Ambrose. And people thought Niiganan Housing Ventures was something else. We're not. Niiganan Housing is the organization. Ambrose was our first build. And it was built in response to the city saying, look, you know, 15 years ago, we had 50 hardest to house people on the streets of Edmonton. That was 15 years ago. And in response to that, they decided that they needed to find someone who would offer services to these 50 people. Now, the majority of those 50 people were Indigenous. And so we had 7 tenacious women here in Edmonton, Métis, Inuit, and First Nations that got together. They were social workers and home care providers and nurses and healthcare deliverers that saw the disparity in the way our people were housed and in the way they were treated in hospitals and everywhere in trying to even get an apartment. And so they lobbied government for a long time to build Ambrose Place, and it finally came to fruition. And so when I first opened the doors on November 14th, and we took in our first people to be housed, 25 of them had been on the street for well over 40 years. They had been tried to be housed, but they never were successful. I'm happy to say that those 25 core people that we took in and housed and welcomed home to their language, to their ceremonies, to their food, and to the love, all either, the only way they left Ambrose was either to a higher level of care or to the spirit world, where we help them transcend that way, that journey to the spirit world. So we knew right away we had found a solution for our people in how to house them. And of course, it didn't take long for us to become a recognized service agency in housing that was specifically designed for Indigenous people. Although we welcome all races of man, it's just that the delivery of services is coming from an Indigenous way of being and understanding. Ambrose Daniels was a man from Buffalo Lake Settlement. He was born in Buffalo Lake. He became an iron worker. He worked all over Canada as an iron worker. He was hurt and ended up on the streets of Edmonton because his recourse was to drink. And his drinking got him into this situation where he had become houseless. He was a very, very kind man. They called him Papa Smurf. He was just a little guy. And he would help anybody. And so the minute they tried to house him, he would invite the rest of the street into his apartment. And of course, mayhem would happen. And he would, like, within weeks be evicted. And so they were constantly trying to keep him housed and couldn't. And anyways, he succumbed to double pneumonia and he died on the streets of Edmonton, cold concrete place with no love and no support to help him. And so his social worker said, yeah, we got to get this happening faster, sooner than later. And that's why Ambrose Place is called Ambrose, is because of the social workers' commitment to honor this man, Ambrose Daniels. So our vision at Niiganan is to provide communities where individuals and families of primarily Indigenous ancestry have a place to call their home. And you'll see that it starts to provide communities because we do much more than provide housing. We do wraparound community building. And in every one of our sites, the whole process is to invite people in so they have a sense of belonging and that they feel that they do have a community. Because people living on the street have their street community, but the rest of society will walk by them like they don't even exist. And so we believe that there's a way to house people, and we're governed through natural law. And so when I first opened, I knew we were going to do something different, and I knew I was old enough by then that government wasn't going to push me around and tell me how to do it. That we were gonna do it the way we understood our community needed to be housed. And so the first thing we did is we went back into ceremony, and we lifted that Ospogan, and we called on our ancestors, and we asked Creator to help give us guidance. And out of that, I recognized that if we built our foundation from our belief system, our value system, our spirit laws, we couldn't miss. And that's why we're built and governed by natural law. And therefore, look like simple laws, but they're very, very layered. And so Creator gave you the spirit of kindness. It sits right inside of you. And all he asks every day is for us to be kind. Kind to one another. Kind to the earth. Kind to the air. Kind to the water. Kind to the four-legged, the winged ones, the crawlers, the swimmers. Just be kind. Every day, try to be kind. So when I go to my smudge in the morning, I ask Creator, help me walk today from a very kind place. That second law he gave us is honesty. Honesty. Speak your truth, even when it's not popular. Always stay in your truth. Don't deviate from your truth. When we speak from an honest place, in a kind way, people will listen. Real hard one for me to learn, because I'm brutally honest sometimes. And so to combine that kindness into the way I present things can be challenging at some time. But I know that's what Creator expects in me. He gave it to me, inside of me. When I'm not being that way, I feel it. You know, when you've had a bad day and you're being snarky to somebody, you feel it and you go, wow, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have gave that dirty look, or I shouldn't have. It's because those natural laws are reminding you to get back on track. That third law Creator gave us was sharing. If you ever go to any of our ceremonies, you'll always hear those old people say, share. Share everything you have so that people can live. That's why it's so hard. That's why there's such a conflict between Western thought and Indigenous thought. Is because we believe the more we give away, financially, physically, emotionally, mentally, the more Creator is going to gift us and help us walk this road of being a spirit, having a human experience. This is a hard life. We need lots of help. We're pretty chamuksin, pitiful. So we know that when we share, we have a better chance of finding our way back. If you go to any of our ceremonies, after ceremony, there's always a big giveaway. You always see it. They're handing out presents all over the place. You go to a wedding, you don't bring gifts. The bride and groom give away their gifts. And it's that thought in mind. So it's not about gathering things around you, material things. It's not about a big car or a big truck. So it's absolutely the opposite of capitalism. And so that gets us into lots of trouble. That fourth law is strength. So Creator asks us to be as strong as we can be in our walk. Strong as I can be today in my kindness and my honesty and sharing with you today. All I can share with you today is a little bit that I know. And a little bit of how successful this way of living has been for our people. Yeah, so we come this worldview, and if you see this project is Umamu Wanguga Mik. It means all our relations lodge. And this is my legacy, really, because this is what I've believed since I was 19 years old, that the system is backwards, that there's a real common sense approach on how we bring people back together. And so I've always believed that the way we incarcerate people is backwards, and I believe the way we take children away is completely backwards. And so Omamu Wanguga Mik tries very hard to restore family ties, to bring children back to their mothers. When we opened, we housed 15 pregnant women, 6 youth, and the rest were all level 1 AISH recipients. In this program, our whole intent was not to have those children taken away, because every one of those women were red flagged to have their children scooped. And it doesn't take much, if you're an Indigenous person, to have your child red flagged and taken away. Nothing. So we worked really hard with those mothers, and I'm happy to say that all those mothers have their own children with them. We have wraparound supports at Omamu, like live-in mushums and cookums, grandfathers and grandmothers. They're there 24/7. We have natural aunties and uncles that come out of our AISH Level 1 group. And we really have a community there. Of those 15 women and men, I shouldn't forget men, because 2 of the men brought children out of care to live with them there. And 4 of the women have brought children home from the welfare system. So because I know you understand money, it costs $80,000 a year to house a child in foster care. And when Indigenous people say, well, let's give us some money, we'll look after that baby, they say, no, 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 you're kin. So you're only gonna get $30,000. So how does that make that right? That's not equal. Anyways, $80,000 a year for a child times 15 times 5. How much money is that in 1 year? And you know, the success rate of keeping children in care, how often do children go back to their natural parents? Never. They end up aging out of the system. They end up ending up on the street because they have no life skills. They end up in our criminal justice system. And eventually, when they're 40, they end up at places like Ambrose. And so it's continuously funded care when we have an opportunity to change that around. So Omamu Wangugamik is doing that. These children that are born there, in their culture, in their language, in their ceremony, in the way we understand the world and interact with the world we live in, these children won't go into care because they've been raised by their natural parents. They've been raised in natural law. They've been raised to be proud of who they are as Nehawak. Yeah, so we say decolonize through ceremony. I want to say that Nikinan is decolonizing every aspect of its work. And we combine ceremony through that process. So ceremony is embedded in everything that we do, but the whole process of decolonizing, if you look it up in the dictionary, it means restoring to their natural state. So if we are to be returned to our natural state, we need to be able to understand who we are as Nehawak and what our original teachings from Creator were in the first place. And that they're not bad, and that it's not voodoo, and it's not black medicine. And so when we look at anything we do, even the way we structure our levels of management, it's an inverted pyramid. So I sit at the bottom. Those people that we serve are at the top. We're in service to those people. And so we try to bring people in and love them to wellness. You know, I never thought I would ever see a day where anybody would be sobering up at Ambrose Place because it took the hardest to house. That means they were heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol. They had all kinds of physical ailments, loss of limbs. They had mental health issues, paranoid schizophrenia, bipolar disease. They had everything going on for them. You had to be absolutely in the worst shape to get into Ambrose. And yet, I'm happy to say that we've had 6 people move through the years into detox, into sobriety, into sober living, and actually live in the real world. As a matter of fact, one of the gentlemen He's gone back to the territories now, but when he left, he became a deacon in the United Church. So anything is possible when you love and you believe in people and you give them that purpose and identity into what they believe should be right. So everything we do is based on decolonizing everything. And that's hard because we are colonized. You are colonized. We're all colonized. And for us to really go back to that original way takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. We have to keep shifting that lens and saying, how does that relate to those natural laws? How does that relate to our clan system, our tribal system? Like, yeah, we got an Okamaw chief, but he doesn't make the decisions for the people unless they simply can't come to consensus. That's the only time. He's got headmen to do certain jobs, and they're responsible for that job for the entire clan. And so our management is set up very much in that way. Our programming is set up in that way. Our methodologies are set up in that way. We circle everything. We use that eagle feather in everything, because not only does it open the heavens for Creator to hear our cry, it also reminds us when we hold that feather, we have to speak from a place of honesty. We have to be accountable, and we have to be responsible for our lives. No one else. It's up to me to find my way. No one else. Yeah, so we do lots of land-based teachings, which is really important because in our original instructions as Indigenous people, our bodies come from the land. I understand my body comes from the land. I know that it'll go back to the land and my spirit will go on. And that my bones are made from the trees and my organs come from all of the medicines that surround us. We try to bring back our natural way of health. And so we go to the land to gather medicines. Like out there is our pharmacy. And we have to get rid of that thinking to believe that a white manufactured pill is going to solve my problems. It might cut down some of the ailments, but you need to combine your mental, your physical, your spiritual, and your emotional being to get wellness. And you have to believe. You have to have a strong belief system. If you ask anybody that's come through cancer, it's probably their belief system that got them there and not those white pills. So we really go to the land to find our way in our health practices and in our spiritual practices. And we do every year take our staff to the land and teach them about those original teachings, about the medicines, about what our belief system is, and we take our residents. And you know, who would have thought that people that are chronically addicted to alcohol would stay sober long enough to go sit on the land in ceremony for 4 days? Well, last year when we had a chicken dance and the public came, there was hardly any room for them to sit. We had so many of our people from our 4 sites that we were full. And my daughter was there with her friend and she goes, where are all these people from? Like, are they coming from Musqueam or where are they coming from? And my daughter told her, those are all people that are housed at Niikanen. And so people have a perception of what these people that are housed with Niikanen are, and she was shocked because everybody was sober and happy and very involved in our ceremony. Yeah, so that's our goal. Our number 1 goal is to decolonize. Our second goal is to make sure that ceremony and medicines and people are housed within our complex and those are offered. And then our third goal is to begin the reunification of the process to family, nation, community, and the resources for once homeless and forgotten people. I talked about our methodology. Everything is designed around this medicine wheel. I see the medicine wheel. I love coming to this church because I see the 7 sacred teachings, and I see the turtle, and I see the medicine wheel, and it always, and when I heard everything this morning, it just made me feel like, yeah, I'm at home here. You understand me a little bit. And that makes me really happy. And so everything that we do is encompassed in that medicine wheel. This is our Pimatsuan project. So all of our names were given through ceremony. We didn't name them. We took print, we took tobacco, we went to ceremony, we prayed about it, and that elder would wait for that song, and through that song our name came. And so Pimatsuan means life. And this is our transitional place. It's the old Sands Hotel. It's starting to look quite different now. And eventually it'll house 54 permanent supportive housing units along with a transitional bed unit. Transition was so great for us to get because it allowed us to have those first 3 months when somebody comes in off the street to kind of calm down, get centered, and allow us to assess what their level was really at. Because anybody that comes off the street is at a high level of care need. But really, once you house somebody and get them straightened out and get them on medicine and get them attended to in all parts of themselves, their level of care changes dramatically. However, it's always, like when we only had Ambrose, that was always a challenge because we'd have somebody come in and house directly from the street, and it was mayhem for the first 3 months because that person has nothing to lose. What are you gonna do, kick me out? I lived on the street before. You can do nothing to a houseless person that the street and themselves haven't already done. And so the only way you're gonna build relationship is to build relationship, to build that trust, to let them know you love them, to let them know we're not gonna kick you out, and to work towards different changes in their recovery. So Pimatsuan takes the heat off of our other builds. That's a time for them to be assessed and get ready to move into other places. It also becomes a place that, hey buddy, you're getting out of hand here. If you don't smarten up, you're going to Pimatsuan and live in a dorm in a little bed. And you're gonna lose your apartment. And so we do that. We don't have to kick them to the curb anymore. We just move them around within our complexes. So Pimatsuan is a pretty cool program. It mirrors very much Ambrose, but again, it incorporates that transitional housing piece. The most recent build is MacArthur. And so when Homer Trust came to me and said they wanted to build it, we don't own this building, we only deliver the program. And it was supposed to be for level 2. Well, seriously, there's nobody on the street that's a level 2. That's a very minimal need level. Most of the people that live on street are level 4s and level 5s, and level 5 hasn't been developed yet. We're talking about doing beds right in Pimatsuan that are accessible units, and they will actually be a locked unit. So these are people that have suffered Wernicke syndrome from too much drink. Their mental health needs are incredibly high, but they can't be housed in a hospital. They can't be housed at Alberta Hospital. So we're looking at designing 6 beds in a locked unit at Pimatsuan that still allow our people at times when they're doing good to come out and enjoy the land and be in circle with us and be in ceremony. And so MacArthur, even though it's developed for level 2, is actually becoming 3-4. Is that about right? Yeah. So it's a level 3-4, very similar to Ambrose Place. We also have persons with developmental disabilities. We have 6 units. And so when I first opened Ambrose, they came to me and said, would you be willing to take these people? And I said, well, I don't even know anything about this. So they explained it. And I said, okay, yeah, I'll give you 3 beds. These are people that were born with brain trauma, and they need extra special care. And so our 3 beds went to 6 beds real fast, because there's a huge need for PDD beds in the community, especially for Indigenous people. And what we found is that living at Ambrose was way too traumatic for them, especially when people got really, really imbibing when they seem to have extra money. And these people have severe mental health issues. And so we made a decision to start opening up three-person housing. And so we have 6 houses now that support 3 at a time. And it's so wonderful because Deborah was just telling me that they went to pick the grandfathers, so those are the rocks for our sweat lodge. And they took 2 people from the PDD homes who I know and love, and they had such a wonderful time, and they had such a good trip, and they felt, they had such a great time being on the land with us. And I just think there's so many opportunities for our people to be housed differently. I think that Niganan, and I want to say, I can't thank you enough for your support in the beginning, because that first $2,500 you gave me, let me buy underwear and sweatpants. And then that second coffee, having dessert with you one evening, brought me another $5,000 that allowed me to purchase a van to get them to ceremony and to do amazing things. And the last $5,000 also went to a van, because we don't get money to do that. We have to find the resources in the community. So I really want to thank you for your continued support. I invite you all to come and visit us at any one of our sites. I don't think Niganan is going to stop growing right away soon. And I think that Niganan is making a huge difference in the way our people are being housed. So thank you for giving me this little time to speak to you.
And thank you. I should have given you that before. I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Carola. And now Lois is going to come up and give us a little bit of an idea of something new that's happening within the United Church.
Thanks, Ruth. As I looked at this, I was thinking the future in moving towards right relationships. You've heard a lot about the future right now from Carola. This is another one that I learned about. And the future in moving towards right relationship, that is moving from mission to partnership relationships, is being fulfilled today with the establishment of a Central Alberta Spiritual Center. Beverly United Church ceded its building and property to the center at 40th Street and 120th Avenue. General Council of the United Church of Canada is in the process of identifying and removing any structural barriers that would prevent the development and sustaining of an autonomous national Indigenous organization within the United Church of Canada. With the assistance of Interconnect Housing Foundation in Red Deer and a grant of $40,000 from the National Church, the center is in this process of setting up a board to facilitate spiritual journeys and program. The building is leased by the Emmanuel Christian Assembly Fort Services, which was contracted with Beverly before the center took over the building. Charlene Burns, along with her partner Russell Burns, are the main facilitators at present. Charlene is a staff person with the United Church Northern Spirit Regional Council. The center will support all Indigenous nations, including Inuit and Métis, and welcomes non-Indigenous participation. I, along with a few other non-Indigenous United Church persons, attended their last 2 meetings. It has been a real learning curve for me, and I have learned and I look forward to the brighter future and inclusive future. Thank you.
Ruth, you're going to come and lead us in this time where we can strengthen our intentions. But just to echo Ruth's words one more time, Dr. Cunningham, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate not only your update about something we've supported for many years, but just your spirit, your sense of connection with us. We're so grateful. Thank you so much.
Please join me in our prayer for today. We are together this day in renewed commitment to our relationships with each other and with all of creation. May we now share a prayer written by Stan McKay from the Fisher River Cree Nation in Manitoba. He was the first Indigenous moderator of the United Church of Canada from 1994 to 1997. May we offer these words that strengthen our intentions and our spirits. We come with thanksgiving for our very breath, the warmth of sun and the sustaining waters, for life all around us, the plants, soft grasses, and sheltering trees, for the ones that crawl, those that swim, and those that fly, for the four-legged and the two-legged, all our relations. We celebrate our diversity in creation as reflected in the four winds from the four directions. We especially honor the many people with their many gifts for understanding our shared life on the earth. We strive to live out the 7 sacred teachings: respect, love, honesty, courage, humility, wisdom, truth. These teachings enable us to live in harmony with ourselves, with our neighbors, and all the created earth.
Beauty is
We go with gratitude for the great heritage that we share with one another. We go strengthened for the good and the difficult work of reconciliation. We go with great hope for the good way of relationship and connection to our land and to all that live on that land. We go with peace, joining in our hope for a hope-filled tomorrow.